My name is Marshall Trammell, and I'm a stutterer. And stuttering is a way of speaking, and I've always related to the experience of witnessing domestic violence, in my home, right? So I think the rupture that continues with my speech is witnessing, people that I love having, experiencing their ruptures in their relationship. So my Black family, who came from the southern parts of the United States, got married. My parents were married in Kansas City, right in the center of the United States. My father joined the military, U.S. military, fought in Vietnam. And I was raised, I was born on a military base in San Diego. And then I was raised on the island of Oahu, another like colonized space that gets sort of it's compounded by the violence of the military continuing to be there. And so I think about my rupture in my own language around those multiple violences and the violence that exhibited in my home. So that sticks with me. And so when I introduce myself, I introduce this sort of cycles of kinds of violence and the occupation and how that resounds in my body. And so when I introduce what I do on the drum set, there's this fluctuation that you might witness with how I articulate my sound, and it is kind of an echo of this rupture of violence, or witnessing, or moving through it in a resounding way, in a resounding space. So I call myself a music research strategist, because I'm interested in complexity theory and project management. I'm not really interested in composing sound events, but I'm really interested in how people are communicating together. I like to gather musicians who demonstrate an analysis of this capitalist world and how it changes people, and what are values about positive change. And I think those people who do that work and are musicians are the type of people that I like to perform with or engage with, or institutions of people and thought that I like to resonate with. I think what I'm doing is I have different kind of pedagogical forms that in this workshop, particularly the Insurgent learning workshop, it's a series of investigations that are sort of fueled by what I call Black amnesia and indigenous justice. That's one of the threads of the engagement. But really this performing political education form. And these are concepts or strategies for popular education trainings that come out of organizing out of some textbooks, or not textbooks, workbooks for engagement that I've come across over my lifetime. With this practice, this area of performing political education, it's kind of fueled by what I call Insurgent learning workshops, and they began with a project that was centered around men of color in addressing how we all came to be in Oakland, California at a certain time. But what I decided to do was to look at the interculturally situated, revolutionary, liberatory practices from the past. And one of the ways, very much inspired by the Mau Mau, the Zapatista uprising, how they organize themselves. And I've been fortunate to visit the caracoles in community, in people of color organizations where we were studying that work. And so I started looking at the Underground Railroad as a liberatory practice, and like, what can we draw from that period of time to today? What does that look like? And part of that engagement is how native histories are kind of invisibilized in what I call it's like the Underground Railroad tourist industrial complex, where like all these sites that are commodified for tourists are basically like, you know, the Underground Railroad site under someone's house, or now it's a bank. But I think a lot of hidden stories of like of maroons, of people escaping plantations, or it may have to do with like engagements with like native people away from homes, you know, like in the Dismal Swamp in North Carolina, or in the wildernesses of the United States. And so I invested in creating music research strategists, and to be that, you'd be involved in like critical discourse that's in community, that's in resonance with organizations who are interested in like changing kind of policies in a direct way, and getting towards more of that. In this case, here in Amsterdam, this is probably the first real Insurgent learning ensemble workshop. I've had a few dry runs, but this was the really clearest one, which has a lot of like modules from different projects. And because I had the fortune of working with Sonic Axe a few years ago, I was invited to partner with Sawa Foundation, their Levantine Arts Foundation, and I had completely different ideas of what I wanted to do with them, which was more of a database project at some point. But what we are been able to do was I wanted to interrogate the notion of surveillance of migrants. And really the kind of this arc of this investigation I started to call the improvisations of displaced people.
Or do you just need that little cheat sheet or a little table to do your thing? So I don't know. You have to inform each other.
In this workshop I wanted to create a number of criteria for a migrant-led governing body on managing advanced technology and surveillance. Surveillance technology, it's like rampant, it's biometric scans, it's an intensity of control, like management of migrants. And so the provocation that came to me was, how could we create and actually bolster the discourse and critiques of this technology as artists, and how could that actually work to address like refugee, asylum seeker concerns. So I gave this provocation to this group of Levantine migrants, North African folks, an array of people who migrated here, and we brought some tension into the room, which is, I think, important in any education learning process. And as a non-migrant, as a settler, my body is like I'm a settler in the U.S. Like there are settlers, there's settler violence, and I certainly benefit from being a settler. My duty here is to interrogate the subject and create opportunity to learn from the experience of the members of the ensemble. So, but insurgency is something we need to learn across time, and so I'm able to draw upon different types of insurgency and then ask them about their own, and investigate their own resistances and how they sustain their lives, and then we're turning this into graphic scores.
Hurry up. Yeah, so this is my graphic score, and the gestures I'll be interacting with is Marshall rubbing his elbow on the drum. Yeah. Potentially you moving your heel. And the renwa, it would be when you're playing your, I don't know what's بزق. when you get close, يعني, you have moments when you come close to it, you bring it close to your face, يعني, to your upper body كده. Feel like it's almost like a hug. كده أيوة. While you're playing, and it's like, it's النفس اللي قبل ما you start singing. Okay. Quite specific. It doesn't have to be that, but that was what.
I like that. So it's a potential singing, but I actually don't sing.
Exactly.
So it's like more breathing.
Exactly.
So we wanted to have the audience folded into the performance and have a way for the audience to have a direct communication with the ensemble. And so Sugenwa, Noir, and I are kind of the facilitators of this. We're the teachers of this process. And then we're facilitating not a concert. This is a performing political education forum in which the audience and the facilitators are going to communicate. The facilitators and the audience and the ensemble will communicate, and then the audience will directly communicate with the ensemble, like conducting them in a way. And then we will then have the improvisations that we want. So this ensemble was gathered. We first met online. They responded to the call. They wrote wonderful applications, and they're really interested. It was exciting. And so once we gathered them for the first time, we met online because I lived in the state. I live in the U.S. And then one of the main things that I was really curious about was like how to provoke their stories, to evoke their stories. And in the stories, because I gave them, we're talking about immigration, and we're talking about immigration in a time of like rapid, war and migrations happening severely all over the place. And so it's a hard subject. And so that was important for us to kind of go through the fire of that discourse, to kind of burn these, and so we would kind of burn these ideas into paper, and we would like write them down on these pieces of paper with all of us. And so this is the kiln, this is the workshop, is like you heat up these emotions and then you write it down. And so we're sharing these things, and were taking shape. And that shape, the forge of the workshop, the stories, helped us to prepare to go to the branding iron workshop, which is exciting.
We have the same one. I beg to address the improvisational theater of the court. It's interesting to be in this church, which kind of has this way that has kind of looks like a judge could sit here or something, right? Like how we could use music research strategies in a way to create policy, create laws. And the way that laws are created is through like people having understanding of the language and then the language of the law and the purpose of the law, and like convincing like how they argument, what kind of arguments make sense for most people. So in this case,
we're having this whole learning engagement. The audience is going to learn the language of these codes as the ensemble learns it as well. And I wanted to sort of, I go beyond the limits of the bandstand with the work. So I borrowing ideas that are certainly instigated by Butch Morris's work, certainly instigated by Cobra, John Zorn's work, and certainly and others, but I think the Hydra project, in which John Zorn's Cobra was used in a mock trial around child welfare, is like most apropos. The installation that we've set up is it's a sound dispersal. It's a composition that borrowed from Alvin Lucier's 1969 "I'm Sitting in a Room." Alvin Lucier was also a stutterer, and so he talks about how the composition flattens out his sounds, his language, his speech, his communication processes. So you will hear in this space the sight tuning process, where we recorded speech that was created in our workshops in this very resonant hall. It will be played repeatedly, and it was played and re-recorded repeatedly until we hear the resonant frequencies of the internal architecture dispersed all around. And so we will be playing this installation here, and you can experience the iterations of how the sound transforms. It becomes what we call noise. I had other visions of this whole project, but which is great. But because we worked as a team collaboratively, like that's really special. Like working with the sisters at Sonic Axe, working with Genhua, being very aware of the wars that are being waged, being aware that we're in mourning with our brothers and sisters and our trans communities. We are aware of the violences that are going on and what we're here to do with the resources that we work hard to have and to share. And so we're continually making space, the radical hospitality exhibited by Sonic Axe. It's very very welcoming. It's amazing to work with documentarians, with interns, with specialists that have been brought to kind of to hold the space together.
Yeah.
terms of preparing an active listening engagement, I did talk about like listening to your lover, right? Like who, like you're really curious about everything they do and what's like with their eyebrow raises, like, oh, what's interesting? And so when we are actively engaged in performance, that we listen very carefully to each other. And I think training then will be some tentative listening, and then kind of have some exaggerated listening experiences, and help them tune themselves to each other. So as a soloist, I kind of made myself kind of away from being a jazz, free jazz, like what do you call the sideman, to really having a vernacular as a soloist, listening very carefully to this, and then listening to being the conductor space where I'm going to be listening to the ensemble. So as we're performing our research is like training for insurgents, actually for like fighting, like for, if you have to arm up to defend your house and your community because they're under attack. So these kind of strategies, how are you listening? How are you engaging with your emotions in different forms? These are a way of addressing art practices that are tactical in terms of making tactical media, and in terms of transforming this weapon, like cultural weaponry, to meet the times. Like it's really dark things that are going on. So having analysis of these things are very important to what is going to come out of their bodies and their decision-making practices as music research strategists.
Code to see, code to speak, code to hear. In front of the tower code, what you want to be. There are monuments of speech, monuments of fear, monuments of blood. Techno-military bodies behind towers, transmitting an unverbal code. To scan, to capture, to abduct, to erase, to monitor. You witness it all, then spiral in insomnia. What language is speaking out of your cornea? It is the language of suffering and destruction, the one I dream of daily blood and fire, the one I suppress with substance, but finds a way back, a suffocating yearning for the chance of home. Code to see, code to speak, code to hear. In front of the tower code, what you want to be. There are monuments of speech, monuments of fear, monuments of blood. Techno-military bodies behind towers, transmitting an unverbal code. To scan, to capture, to abduct, to erase, to monitor. You witness it all, then spiral in insomnia. What language is speaking out of your cornea? It is the language of suffering and destruction, the one I dream of daily blood